Back in 2014, I decided to do something that I'd been thinking about doing for a number of years, and that was to order a custom built guitar. Now, I'd been playing guitar at the time for about 2 decades, so I knew it was something that I was always going to do, and I wasn't making a living from music, but I was making money from music. I was in a band, we were quite serious about it, and I just had that inkling and that hankering after a custom build. I'd been playing dobro at the time, or I was playing dobro for a couple of years. I'd been playing guitar for about probably 15 to 20 years, but I'd recently gotten into the dobro. And for those who don't know, the dobro, and you can see the dobro in some of my videos, the dobro is a lap style guitar that you play with a metal bar. And this is a video about custom guitars generally, but the part of the reason that I wanted a custom built dobro is because here in the UK, dobros are not particularly ubiquitous. They're not that ubiquitous in the States. You really hear these guitars in bluegrass music, but dobros here in the UK are they're like hen's teeth. Good dobros are hard to come by. So I decided I'm going to take the plunge and I'm going to have one built and shipped to me from the States. And I emailed a guy called Tom Warner, who sadly has passed now, and I asked him could he make me a guitar. He was working out of a workshop in the Appalachians in West Virginia, and he said, "Yep, absolutely. This is how much it's going to cost," and we spec'd it out, etc., etc. And I got my guitar, and it's a great guitar. So this is in no way an attempt to discourage anybody from doing this. It's not in any way an attempt to flame the builder. He was fantastic, no issues. But it was a stressful experience, and ordering a custom built guitar is a stressful experience. It doesn't matter how good your builder is. It's going to be something that is going to have its trials and tribulations, and it's going to test you in some ways. And I just wanted to make this video for anybody who's thinking about doing this, to give you some advice on how to go about this to get the best experience and to get the best guitar. So the first thing I'm going to say, if you're serious and you think that you want a custom built guitar, is the first thing you've got to understand is that it's going to take a long time to deliver, and it's going to test your patience. And what I mean by that is that, first of all, every good builder is going to have a lead time. If they've built a few instruments and they've got a reputation, they're going to have a lead time of probably 6 months, maybe a year, maybe more than a year. If they're very reputable, there can be waiting lists, that are like 4 or 5 years in the case of some builders. So it's not going to be a case of you just say, "Oh, here's the specs, here's what I want," and they go, "Okay, I'll get to work on it on Monday." It's not going to happen like that. Here's the thing, if you're reaching out to a small luthier, and I'm talking about small boutique luthiers here, I'm not talking about people that are maybe running a small factory and they're saying, "Oh, we hand build guitars." I'm talking about people in workshops who don't use machinery, and at the most, they might have like 1 or 2 assistants, but they may very well be just out there on their own building these guitars one at a time, literally by hand, which in the case of my guitar is pretty much the case. Anything can happen that can slow your build down. If there's a fire, if there's a leak in the roof, if there's a particularly bad winter, which in the case of my guitar that happened. There was a heavy snow and the guy was in the Appalachians and he couldn't get to his workshop. If the builder gets ill, if the builder's family get ill, if there's a death in the family, if he runs out of money for materials, these things are going to delay your build. That really brings me to the second thing that I want to say about having a custom build, and that is that you need to do your due diligence. What I mean by that is get on the internet and research. We're in an era now where if somebody has burnt somebody, it's going to be somewhere on the internet. If somebody has sent this guy £5,000 for a guitar and that guitar has not turned up, or if that guitar has turned up as an absolute dog and no effort has gone into it, it's going to be on the internet. Now, there's good luthiers. I'm not in any way trying to sort of disparage the trade. There's probably, for every bad egg, there's probably 100 good ones. Do you know what I mean? And that's like in everything in life. But if you go on forums and you look at custom build forums and you read about people on Reddit who are talking about custom build, you're going to find people that are going to chime in and say, "Look, I got burnt. I sent my money. I didn't get my guitar. I'm waiting for my guitar and it's been X amount of time." And it brings me back to my first point. You're going to have to trust this person. It's going to test your patience. Make sure you trust them as far as you can. You can't trust them implicitly, but make sure you trust them as far as you can. And here's some advice. Here's some key advice I'm going to give you here. If you're thinking about having a custom build, go on a forum. But if there's people on there that have had that builder build a guitar for them, don't ask them on the forum. DM them. Speak to them privately, because here's the thing: if I've had an experience with somebody where it worked out, but I was left a bit unsatisfied, I'm probably going to be nervous about getting into a public forum and saying that, and I might be quite diplomatic, or I might not tell the truth. I think if you DM somebody and you say to somebody, look, you know, I know you've dealt with this guy, I'm thinking about dealing with him, what was it really like, they're gonna tell you the truth. The third thing I'm going to say about having a custom build is that you need to spec out exactly what you want, and you need to know what you want before you order the guitar. The reality of it is that guitars, even guitars off production lines, built from the same materials, are always different in often in negligible ways, but no guitars are identical. Take two Strats off the wall in a big guitar store, they're not going to be the same. So make sure you spec out exactly what you want, and you can get as close then to something that you're looking for. And think about how you're going to use this guitar. If this is a guitar for playing fingerstyle, you might want to think about a cedar top guitar. If this is a guitar that you're going to play in an open mic or in a jam, you're going to want to cut through. So you're going to want something with Sitka spruce perhaps, or if you're ordering a custom built dobro and you're using it for bluegrass, you might want to think about maple. If you're buying a guitar and you want a kind of dark woody sound, you might want to go for mahogany. And the best thing I can say, if you don't know what you want, is go to a guitar, particularly with the acoustic guitars, go to a guitar store, big guitar store, take down 10 or 12 acoustic guitars, try different guitars made from different tone woods, different neck profiles, different sizes, and decide what you want before you order it. Because the more clear you can be with the builder about what you want and what you're going to use it for, the more likely they are to build you a good guitar. That being said, the other thing I'm going to say, which kind of runs counter to that, but it's true, be prepared to listen to them as well. If they turn around and they say to you, look, if you order something, you want some random tone wood that's completely left field, they're going to perhaps say, well, you know what, I don't think that's going to work, or that wood's really difficult to work with, it's difficult to shape, I don't really want to do it. Don't force the issue. Listen to what they're saying, because the reality of it is that you don't want a builder to be building you a guitar that they don't really want to build. So it's kind of a compromise. You know, you have to be prepared to listen to what they say, but you've also got to be clear about what you want. And this is the final thing I'm going to say about ordering a custom build. Before I tell you why I think you should order a custom build, understand that that build and that guitar, it may be brilliant, but it's not necessarily going to be the one. And what I mean by that is, if you're watching this and you're thinking seriously about, I'm going to order a custom build, let's be realistic. You've probably been playing guitar for a long time. Whether you're a great guitar player or not, you've probably owned a number of guitars. I've owned a string of guitars. I've owned some cheap Chinese guitars, loads and loads and loads of them, and I've also owned decent guitars, and some of the cheap guitars have been terrible, some of them have been actually pretty good, some of the more expensive guitars I own have been not so good, and some of them have been brilliant, and some of them, many of them, have been good guitars, but just not my guitar, not the one. So understand that there's no logical correlation between the price you pay for a guitar and the mojo that that guitar has. There is a logical correlation, or there should be, between the price you pay for a guitar and how well made the guitar is, but that's not the same as the guitar having that mojo, that vibe, being the one that it stops you from ever wanting another guitar, which is what you want if you buy a custom build. Really, if you're spending that much money, you want to have that guitar that's going to stop you hankering after other guitars. Now let's be realistic, that's not going to happen, but that's what we want. So like I said at the beginning of this video, I had a great experience with my builder. I got my guitar, I love it, I'm happy. So I want to tell you why I think, if you are still serious and you really want a custom build and you've thought about all the caveats, you've spec'd it out, why I think you should go for it. The first reason I think you should go for it is because when you order a custom build, you are getting something completely unique. You can choose the tone wood, you can choose the pickups if it's going to have pickups, you can choose the binding, you can choose the fretboard wood, you can choose, I mean, the possibilities are absolutely endless. You know, I had my initials inlaid into the fretboard. I knew when I did that was going to hit the resale value, but I also knew I'm probably never going to have another custom build, so I'm just going to chance it, and if it's a bad guitar, it's a bad guitar, but if it's a good guitar and I want it and I'm going to keep it forever and it's got my initials in, I'm going to love that. I'm going to be loving that every time I sit down with it, because it's going to remind me that I've got something totally unique, and I do love my guitar, so I'm happy. So just you know, enjoy that, you know, having a guitar that's nothing like any other guitar in the world. And it's, when I say nothing like any other guitar in the world, there are going to be guitars out there that are similar, but if you've had a guitar where the builder has shaped the wood, the builder has wiped down the glue, you know, the builder has literally, you know, everything's been done by hand, when you have that guitar in your hands, you're going to know that it's unique, and that in itself is a really nice feeling. With my guitar, and I think probably with most builds, the builder sent emails intermittently giving me little updates. I've still got those threads. A lot of those threads were me nagging him because I was paranoid because I'd given my money to somebody so far away. But like I said, I got the guitar and he was very professional and very polite and friendly and very informative. And he sent me emails with pictures of the build and pictures of the guitar on the workshop bench. And when it arrived, I went and picked it up and I kept the customs receipt. So I've got in the guitar case in a little polythene folder, I've got like the customs receipt, I've got the emails that I printed off, but the back and forth. I've got the pictures of the guitar at various stages of the build process, the guitar body on the workshop bench, the guitar when it was finished, the guitar when he was setting the neck, all these different pictures, and it just adds to, it's a tangible history. It's something that I think you don't get when you buy a guitar off the wall at a big guitar store. Here's the final reason that I think if you want a custom built guitar and you can afford it and you've done your due diligence and you know what you're getting into, here's the final reason I think you should absolutely go for it. And this is the cheesy reason, but it's true. You only live once. You're a long time dead, right? And if you're like me, playing the guitar and music and being involved in music and listening to music and thinking about music and making music, it just runs through the center of your life like Blackpool through a stick of rock. I love music and I love the guitar, and nobody lies on their deathbed and thinks, oh, I'm so glad of all the things I did in my life, I'm so glad that I didn't order that custom built guitar when I was in my 30s or 40s or 50s. Nobody does that. You're a long time dead. You know what I mean? Not to put too blunt a point on it, but carpe diem. You know what I mean? If you like the idea of ordering a custom built guitar, if you've been hankering after one for a couple of years, because this is the sort of thing that people think about for a long time before they do it, if you know what you want, if you're prepared to take the chance, and you have the money and you can justify it and your family don't have any problem with you spending that money, just go for it. So there's some things to think about if you're thinking about ordering a custom build. If you've ordered a custom build, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear about your experience. If I've missed anything off this list, feel free to let me know. Is there anything that I should have said that needs considering as well? Have I missed anything? Let me know. Give the video a like, subscribe, and in the meantime, take it easy.